Hello again. This is Professor Dunn. Just get this up. Okay, so all right. So the next thing we're going to look at is when Rome actually takes over the area which is today considered northern Africa. And the Romans conquer northern Africa and the area that is the land north of the Sahara. And we have administrators, soldiers, and slaves from as far as eastern Iran that were sent to this area of what becomes known as the Roman African province. Well, Berbers were appointed to military and administrative positions throughout the empire. One of the most powerful of the Roman emperors, Severus, ruled from 193 to 211 AD and was of Berber origin, right, or heritage. Excuse me. So we see a great mixing of all of these things starting to really come together in northern Africa. Excuse me. And perhaps the most important legacy of Rome's presence in northern Africa are the Roman cities, are these Roman ruins that we have. And this is what I'm showing you is one of the most well-preserved examples of this. And this was known, the city was known as Them Gudi or Timgad. And this would be in what is the present-day Algeria, the country Algeria, and it dates to the early 2nd century AD. And what makes it a typical Roman city and is important here is how it's constructed. So it's constructed on a square plan. It has a forum, a central square within the city, and then it has, or it had at one time, a small temple, public toilets, and a public meeting hall, or what is known as a basilica. The whole structure of the city is based on, this main road that runs north east, and another main road that runs, I'm sorry, what did I just say? North-south. One road goes north-south, and the other main road goes east-west. And then they cross, and so in the middle where they cross, this is where the center of the city was put. And it was built by the order of Trajan, who was a Roman ruler in the early 2nd century AD. And Timgad was located along a major Roman road in the heart of Nubian Berber territory, less than a day's journey from the Nubian tombs, which we were just looking at in the last image, right? So as Rome, goes into decline, the next really important thing that we have in this area of northern Africa is the development of Islam. So during the 5th century AD, Timgad is converted by the first Christian Germanic people known as the Vandals, who enter into control of the Romans' African provinces. A century later, the region was reclaimed by the armies of the Byzantine Empire, which is actually an extension of the Eastern Roman Empire, if you know your history. And Timgad was finally abandoned after the great cultural upheaval of the 7th century AD, when the Arab armies, newly united under the banner of Islam, swept across northern Africa. And we have all then of northern Africa that gets converted to become Muslim, right? And this is a real cultural change for this area. And we see that what happens is in in North Africa as well as in what we call today the Middle East. It unifies this area just like Christianity had unified Europe, right? The continent of Europe. So I want to show you one of the mosques from this area that's still in existence today. And this, a mosque is, if you do not know, is the Islamic house of prayer. So this is where people who are Muslim go to pray, right? So this is the first mosque are said to have been modeled after the place where Muhammad had instructed his followers in Medina. And Muhammad is the founder of the Muslim religion. The first mosques were just simple structures, and they consisted of shaded walkways surrounded by a rectangular courtyard. But as Islam expanded, its architectural style translated this early model into a more permanent and monumental form, which you can see in this building. This is not a tiny little building, right? One of the first stone mosques was built around 670 AD near the northeastern coast of Tunisia, which is where this is, I'm talking about this Kairouan, Tunisia, which is where this mosque is. When the mosque was destroyed by Berbers, a new mosque was built in its ruins, completed in 836 AD. The Great Mosque of Kairouan is one of the oldest mosques still in use, and it has served as a prototype for later mosques throughout the Islamic African world. So, a couple things to point out. We have another number of domes here, which are, really interesting architectural features because domes are very difficult to build because they're these large open spaces. We also have the open courtyard, right? And we have this structure, which is known as a mihrab. And I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong term. It's known as a minaret. Sorry about that. So a minaret is used where a person will go to the top of the minaret and they will call across the city saying it is time to pray. And for the people who are really devout, they pray 5 times a day facing towards Mecca. As the style in Northern Africa and elsewhere across the world developed for the Islamic architecture, these minarets tend to become much more slender and taller. This is a very early form of a minaret. So if you know your architecture at all, you're kind of, wondering about this maybe. So the domes reference the heavens, and they're a metaphor for divine order in the universe. So they are really important to these structures. The prayer hall, which is located then over here, across from the minaret, is itself a procession then where you go across this large courtyard, right, to then pray. And it's surrounded by a covered colonnaded walkway. In the center of the western wall of the courtyard then rises the minaret, which I was just talking about, the minaret, right? And the minaret not only is used to call the faithful to prayer, but it also serves as a reminder for the town that they're under the protection or the watch of the of Islam and of God. At the opposite end of the courtyard is the prayer hall, which I just pointed out. And really interesting, I think, is that the columns where you see here, the columns all around here, they were actually salvaged from earlier Roman and Byzantine buildings, because the Romans and the Byzantines, they were not in power anymore. So they took the columns off of their buildings and then they made them, they used them here. So all the capitals and how the columns are carved in this building are all of these varied styles. They're not the same because they didn't actually carve them. They recycled them, let's say. And you can see how the trade routes were set up and the power of the religion at the time, because we even have glazed ceramic tiles that are imported from Syria that are in this building. So I find that really fascinating, how far we have these things that are traveling across the world at this time period in the 9th century. So now when we go past the year into from BC to AD, I don't really have to say AD anymore because we just assume if I don't say BC or BCE, it is AD. Like we don't say 2021 AD. We don't say that. So from now on, if I don't say AD, then if I don't say BC, you just have to assume I'm meaning AD. Okay, hopefully that's clear. All right, so I'll stop this.